Good evening, folks. Thanks for showing up. Nice to see you. I used to come to San Jose fairly often years ago. It's been a long time since I've been here. I used to do everything from, I think I did a couple of shows here at the university. And a couple of times I did shows in these really kind of depressing bar clubs that Northern California has. There's a thing about Northern California to me that has that River's Edge feel about it. You know, the kids could be little Satanist units. They might murder their family, or they might just deal their dad's dope at school. And there's some very scary people from up here. You know, guys who have been in and out of jail since they were like 13, and now they're 51 and they deal meth and work at a normal job as well. And they moonlight as like a pornographer or a drug dealer or a drug maker. I'm not saying that's any of you, but sometimes you see that in Northern Cal, where you see those guys who look like they're characters out of an Eagles song. You're like, he probably will shoot. A lot of stuff, you just keep walking. And it's not what kept me away from San Jose, those kind of things. It's just it didn't show up on the schedule, so for that, I'm sorry. In any case, it's nice to see you. I was here many years ago. Playing around here is Pearl Jam. We opened for Pearl Jam. It was really cool, like 1993, December, I believe. But in any case, there's a lot of stuff I want to tell you. And you know me by now, one way or another. I'm easily frustrated, always somewhat vexed. And I don't think that's such a bad thing. I think to be somehow continually pissed off is to be part of a good thing and not a bad thing. And I don't say pissed off like I'm going to punch out a wall, drink myself into a stupor, and go wreck a car, or like, you know, kick a dog or something. I just see things around me and I go, how can anyone put up with this bullshit? And it's the same things that you see too, because you're switched on, you get it. You look around, you're like, no, that's bullshit. Why are people going along with this? And it being an election year, 2004, with the big November event coming up, the more and more we get closer to the election, the more bullshit you start to see on places like the Fox News channel, which we all watch because it's like poor man's Comedy Central. And the other day, it's true. You don't watch a guy like Bill O'Reilly. You don't sit through Sean Hannity for information. You just reconfirm that you're right about everything that he says you're wrong about. And you just have to keep, it's like a mantra. You have to keep saying to yourself, it's entertainment, it's entertainment. Don't take it seriously. And the other day on Bill O'Reilly, he had a guest on there. You probably saw this. He had a guest who just wrote a book called Something Crazy is the Fox, Something is the Fox. And he's a guy from the LA Times. And it's a book about that the Fox News Network is numero uno over CNN and MSNBC. And of course, Bill O'Reilly, being the numero uno guy on Fox, had him on the show to tell him how great he was. And so he said, so, you know, you liberal, you know, newspaper people, you press elite, you pinheads, you even like the Fox Network, you know, fair and balanced. And he said, yeah, I don't understand your popularity, but you guys are the most popular news station on the cable network in America. And so I was sitting on the tour bus with my laptop open. I write Bill O'Reilly about once a week. And I immediately wrote him, I said, Mr. O'Reilly, the reason why Fox is number one is because everyone watches MSNBC, BBC World News, and CNN for information. Then they get their fill of information. They go to you guys for entertainment. I said, you're hilarious. Just like those airy books that you put out that sell 3 million copies. If you ever look at his new book, Who's Looking Out For You? I checked it out, at the bookstore the other day. It has these 1-inch gutters, which means there's not a whole lot of type on the page. The typeface is like 14 point, and every fourth or fifth word is factor. And so there's not a lot of stuff in it, and it's a skinny little book, and most Americans, a good majority of Americans, do not read any book that weighs more than a few grams. That's why they like those big kind of fluffy Danielle Steele Grisham books, the kind you can read going from New York to London, and you just can't put them down because it's like sex, danger, sex, danger, sex, danger. And his book is kind of like that too, but it's, you know, surround yourself with smart people who are a positive influence, therefore you too will be smart and positive. You underline this shit. It's like hanging out with Dr. Phil. And all of you during the day are busy. You would never engage something like the Dr. Phil show. I've watched him a couple of times because I think it's interesting to see what middle America clicks into and watches to go like, oh, thank you. And I'm sure he's not a bad guy at all, but he does that annoying thing that I just hate people who do this. Well, I don't hate them, I hate what they do. And it's kind of a mean thing to say. Anyone who does that pisses me off. And that's kind of judgmental and quick to judgment. Fuck it, we're all like that. So just cut the crap and be honest, okay? And so those people who speak with upspeak, where everything they say is a question, when they make a declarative sentence, it comes out like a question. I really hate that. I just want to beat them down like a fucking nail coming out of a wooden wall. And he says, like, he makes statements into questions. They call it upspeak, you know this. And then he'll have some really kind of old wisdom kind of saying. You know your wife, you're married to her, and when she tells you to go out and get a bushel of apples, don't come back with a bushel of peaches. I have a lot of degrees on my wall. People say, Dr. Phil, you have more degrees than a thermometer. I say they're right. I say America listens to too much of this kind of stuff, and if we don't cut this shit, we're gonna be in a lot of trouble, okay? And so there's people like, some of you, me, we dissent, we disagree, we argue, we're pissed off, okay? And so you count me in. And there's a lot of things to be mad about. One thing I saw the other day, which I thought was kind of alarming, kind of made me mad, was the fact that EMI, the massive record conglomerate, has just cut loose like 1,500 employees, cut a whole bunch of bands, and have outsourced their CD manufacture to some place where you can pay someone $65 a year to work. And so that's how they're cutting costs, and that's how they're trying to save themselves and their mansions. And you remember the last couple of years, the major label industry has been steadily going downwards into the abyss. And they had several meetings. What can we possibly do? Well, I've got $80 million in the bank. If this thing keeps going the way it's going, I'm not going to have anything more than 90 million this time next year. This is a crisis. So you start cutting employees, you start cutting bands, so bands never get a chance to fully develop. They just get chopped off at the knees before they get to do anything. And in the 11th hour, the last thing they could come up with is pull the prices down by $3. When their feet are hanging off the edge of the cliff and their heels are staring down at the abyss, right when they're about to fully tank, the last possible thing they come up with, when the knife blade is like right at their eye, they go like, let's try being cool. And apparently it's too late. Too many people are too cool. They're pulling shit off the internet. And they said, let's cut the crap and not call it piracy anymore. These people are thieves. Now, I say a few things that are probably wrong. I say things that are wrong. Even though I know they're wrong, I enjoy saying them. Because sometimes I get so frustrated, I just say, fuck it. And so the major label industries are pissed off that people are downloading songs. Okay, I have never downloaded a song in my life. I just don't care to. If I see a record that I want to check out, chances are the band who's on that record sleeps on people's floors, and if I don't buy the record, they're even more out of macaroni and cheese than they were the day before. And so I'm more than happy, And it is funny to me that everyone is stealing this song and that song in the major label industry going, goddamn thieves, these goddamn fucking kids. And they can't get it through their thick, greedy heads that they've been overcharging people for music for so many years and cranking out so many alarmingly mediocre, tepid records for so many years, where the only song you want is the one that you saw the video of that looks somewhat interesting. The rest of the album is bleh. And why would you want to pay $22.50 in a strip mall for a fucking J-Lo record? That's crime. And so some people steal. And where I would not really advocate thievery, I wouldn't say, hey, go shoplift, because you can get in trouble. And I don't want to be the one saying, hey, do that, like you're going to do anything I'm going to tell you to anyway. Of course not. I'm just saying, I just don't think it's a great idea. But when I see these huge bands, the promotional budget is so overwrought, and the executives are running around going, how am I going to make my $8 million? I need my $8 million. Motherfucker, how much money do you need? And the funniest thing is when you see a guy like little Lars Ulrich from Metallica in a suit. That was hilarious. Sitting, testifying on CNN cameras. I want my 68 cents. That little bastard from Modesto took my 69 cents. God damn it, I want it back. How much fucking money does this guy have in the bank? 200 million? Motherfucker, if I was in Metallica, I would do big ass tours for free. I would charge the people money and I'd give all the money away. How much fucking money do you need? But your kids, they're all paid off. They're all going to college. They're all going to be biologists or whatever the hell they want, or just professional loafers with that much money in the bank. And so I would just be giving it away, but no, Lars wants his 68 fucking cents. When you put out such crappy records, motherfucker, you shouldn't get any money. So here's what. When you see the little teeny tiny indie bands in their van, buy the record at this show. Buy it when you can. Anything bigger than a little teeny tiny band, steal that shit, I say. Fuck it. Anything that says Jennifer Lopez on it, just take it. I figure they owe you. Ben Affleck films should be free. It's such torture to get through them, and usually when you see them, you're incarcerated in an economy on an airplane for like the next 16 hours. And you're like, fuck, okay, I'll watch it, because the numbing boredom is slowly killing me. And that's the only time you can take these handsome blank actors who put no emotion at stake in any of their performances and make no compelling art at all because they're not willing to do what it takes to make it fucking hurt. And they should give it away for free. Anyway, that's one thing. Here's another thing. It's fun to bust on President Bush for the fact that he can't speak. For the fact that he stumbles through the English language like it's a place he's never been to before. And he speaks in this halting 3 to 5 word at a time gait. And perhaps this is his effort to seem presidential or impactful or grave, since he is a war president. I just think he operates on very primitive software. And if he says a fluent sentence, he'll just crash. And that's why have you noticed one thing? I noticed it the other day. He has this interesting crease on his face. It's like this semi-U that goes right across his forehead and disappears over the other eyebrow. And it's from basically the way he smiles, which is he kind of frowns, which kind of pulls his upper lip into this weird smirk. And if you just took a photo of that face, it's basically a face that says, how the fuck did I get this job? Why has such an inarticulate, soft-handed boy of privilege been given such a huge job? And never have so few done so little to embarrass so many. And I'm selfish. Whenever the president speaks, I know he's not on a closed-circuit network. And I know he's beamed all over the world. So when he says something really stupid, like posthumously, and things like that. He said that one the other day. I just wonder, does my ass look fat in this State of the Union address? I wonder what the rest of the world thinks of us, because you know people in England are very switched on. They watch the president speak, especially the other day when he was synced up next to Tony Blair. That should just never happen. They should just keep the two of them apart, because there's our boy, just stammering through, his cue cards. And Tony Blair, whether you like him or not, the more you know about him, the less there is to like. That's my opinion. But in any case, the guy can form a sentence, and then another one, and then another one. And then we have this thing called a paragraph. And then a few more of those. By golly, you either have an essay or a speech. And then they kick it to the president. He's like, there are people in the world. They are not part of the Allied forces. And he does that thing where he kind of leans into every word as if English is a language you have no idea how it works. The International Atomic Energy Agency. And he looks at you like, okay, do you got that? And he projects. Since he does not know, he thinks, therefore, neither do you. And it's very dangerous. And so it's funny to rip on the guy for the fact that he can't speak. It's like the fun we used to have years ago when we used to bust on Dan Quayle, because he couldn't really form a sentence, nor could he spell. Little kids would outspell him. And it's a momentary kind of fun. It's like punching an 8-year-old in the face. Fun, absolutely, but nothing you want to do over and over and over and over again. So the fact that the president can't speak, if that was only all of our problems with this guy, and unfortunately there's way more alarming things, just a few teeny tiny things I take personally that I would like to just point out to you. Well, okay, I brought with me, because I have not memorized them yet, I try to memorize Bush quotes just in tribute. Since the president can't memorize his mind, I'm slowly memorizing it for him. The other day, and this is, there's just a few of these quotes that I downloaded. I downloaded his entire Q&A after his 17-minute and 1-second speech the other night. His third proper press conference since he's been president. Okay, I am nobody. I am a citizen. I'm an American, and I'm just some wise guy on stage with a microphone. Yet, and I don't matter, you know, in any degree. I'm just saying that I feel completely accountable to anyone who writes me a letter, to any direct question, to any kind of inquiry. And if I were the president, he's an elected official. He works for everyone in America, no matter whether they voted for him or not. He is a servant. He should be on stage in front of the American people doing a press conference or some kind of town hall meeting type thing once a month, in my opinion, letting them know where he's at, talking to us, telling us what's going on. The way Clinton used to do. Clinton, you know, and love him or hate him, there's good and bad parts of the guy, of course, like any human being, but he was an egomaniac. He loves the audience. He loves being in front of people, and he would run to the microphone to address the American people. And I liked that. I liked a president who spoke all the time. And this veil of secrecy that this president administration has, I don't know where the hell they found the arrogance to have that. Like, motherfucker, maybe I didn't vote for you, but you owe me an explanation for everything, especially when you have American boys and girls coming back to this country at the most alarming rate. Here's some really shitty mathematics you can play around with. If you take the current amount of American war dead, which is like well over 600 by now, and if you multiply that figure by 165, which is the average body weight of an American adult male, you get this figure that's well over 50 tons. Over 50 tons of flesh, American boys and girls, has come back into this country in iron boxes, buckets, and bags. And it's just a horrible statistic. I mean, what stadium would you have to build to throw 50 tons of meat into it? And that's what's coming back here, and you never hear about any of these stats. They never tell you about any of the wounded, which is in the thousands now. And a war wound is nothing like a wound that we suffer here back on planet Earth, where we like, ooh, my elbow hurts, oh, my shoes are rubbing on my toe, help, call Dr. Scholl's before it's too late. A war wound is like, you know, jaw gone, arm gone, eyeball gone, balls gone, you know, leg vaporized. It's horrific, and they never talk about it. So the other day, the president did a short Q&A, and I watched it, you watched it. I couldn't believe some of the stuff he said. Whenever he speaks, I am in disbelief. So I go online, and I download a transcript of it just so I can be sure, because he says stuff. If your 10-year-old brother said some of this stuff, you go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Have you been going to school at all? But it's the president. And what's funny is you go on Fox News and they will be analyzing the president's speech later tonight. And they're all sit there. He was amazing. He was fantastic. They asked Newt Gingrich. Obviously, he was on point, steady, and straight ahead. And you watch him like, did we see the same Q&A? Okay, so here's just a few of these greatest hits. I just and these aren't edited. This is the real deal. And he does an interesting thing with the English language. He just tortures it. He turns verbs into nouns. These proliferators. These terrorizers. Terrorizers? Yes. A terrorizer is someone who terrorizes the unterrorized, so they become terrorized when they were never previously terrorized. But it's okay, they'll be brought to justice. And so he did one of those, all of a sudden, it's a noun. And I've never heard of this word before. I'm sure it's a word. Okay, anyway. And this is his take on Saddam Hussein. And remember when he speaks, he does that thing where he's always like, where he's really, and it comes off like he's really trying to explain to the American people that a dog really did eat his homework. We're like, I'm not buying this. He's like, but really, come on. I swear to God, he was hungry. And so he does this. And so here's this thing on Saddam. This is a guy who is a torturer, a killer, a maimer. He's a maimer. He's a torturer, he's a killer, he's a maimer. There's mass graves. I mean, he was a horrible individual that really shocked the country in many ways. Shocked it into a kind of, and then there was a horrible pause as he like ransacks his mind for the English language. In many ways, shocked it into kind of a fear of making decisions toward liberty. And that's what we've seen recently. Some citizens are fearful of stepping up. Stepping up to what? American troops who fucking blow their shit up? Whoops, sorry, bomb went in the wrong block, blew the fucking arms and legs off your 4-year-old kid. Sorry, oh yeah, vaporized granddad, that was yesterday. So some citizens are fearful of stepping up, and they're happy. They're not happy, they're occupied, and this is the best. I wouldn't be happy if I were occupied either. Okay. When he's put in prison after the war crime trials are over, first it's going to be Slobodan, then it's going to be Dick Cheney, and then Bush is going to go next into Hague. When he's in prison and he's going down, okay, he'll know all about being occupied. And believe me, I don't think he'll be happy. And so this is a thing I call On Freedom for the Brown-Skinned. Because brown-skinned people need freedom too. Let's not leave them out. And this is a quote. Some of the debate really center, not centers, some of the debate really center around the facts that people don't believe Iraq can be free. That if you're Muslim or perhaps brown-skinned, you can't be self-governing and free. I strongly disagree with that. I reject that because I believe that freedom is the deepest need of every human soul. And if given a chance, the Iraqi people will not only be self-governing, but a stable and free society. Is President Bush a racist? No. I really doubt it. He's just so poorly spoken, this statement. Just, woo, wince, cringe. And that didn't even bug me. I just kind of went, oh, George. Because that's the kind of shit you're used to. And you love things like, oh, gee, I wouldn't want to be occupied either. Woo? You know, it's cute. If only he wasn't the president. If only he was a comedian doing a thing about a president. But this is the one that made me really mad. And I was mad about this before he even did his Q&A and his speech. And perhaps many of you were angry either. You know that when the president is going to go speak to the people from the 9/11 Commission, he's not going to go alone, as it was requested by the 9/11 Commission. They want to see the president, then they want to have a little meeting, a little sit-down chat with the vice president. They refuse to go without the other one there. And so this is my, I call it, on separating the accused. Mr. President, this is the question to the president. Mr. President, why are you and the vice president insisting on appearing together before the 9/11 Commission? Answer, because the 9/11 Commission wants to ask us questions. That's why we're meeting. And I look forward to meeting with them and answering their questions. And then the young man was not done with him yet. He says, I was asking why you're appearing together rather than separately, which was their request, the president. Because it's a good chance for both of us to answer the questions that the 9/11 Commission is looking forward to asking us, and I'm looking forward to answering them. Okay. Sean Hannity, Newt Gingrich, Bill O'Reilly, people like that will tell you that's an answer. To me, and to a lot of people with common sense, with even the most menial grasp and command of the English language, that is really evasive. He did not answer the question, and we all know the answer to it. Of course, Dick Cheney knows everything under the sun, and so if poor little George W. Bush had to sit in front of those people and take a battery of questions, can you imagine him on his own? Hell, it'd be like a 4-year-old lost in a department store. It would just be like, And he wouldn't even be lying. He would just be unable to answer questions. So of course, we'll never be able to see it. And of course he has to have his grandfather with him. He has to have Dick Cheney, who knows where all the bodies are buried. And it's just so funny that people, I just wonder why more people are not angry that such a high official is so nakedly evasive in front of so many people. This is a national telecast. And I just get mad. And I get madder and madder the more I see. Just because I try to be a low bullshit person. High speed, low drag, lowest possible bullshit. And I'm full of it like everybody else. But I try and watch it. And I say a lot of things that are very unflattering to me because I say the truth. For instance, the other day when all of you were hard at work, the president slipped in a funny little speech I call the Let's Go to Mars speech. This is several weeks ago. And he slipped it in at 2 in the afternoon, so a lot of people wouldn't hear it. They'd only see like the 20-second greatest hits version on the evening news. He advocates spending millions and millions and billions of dollars going to Mars. Okay, and so far we've spent gajillions of dollars sending a go-kart to the lonely pink planet way off in the middle of nowhere. And all of you are insatiably curious people. So when you first saw your first high-resolution JPEG or image of Mars, you looked at it with great interest. I mean, wow, Mars, I've never been there. Let's look at it, of course. And so it's pink, orangish brown. It looks like a desert, and it goes forever, and there's stones on it. Okay, got it. And what else do we know about Mars? We know that the little go-kart bumps into rocks and breaks, and it costs millions of dollars to fix it. And the other compelling information from our exploration onto the lonely pink planet is that there could have been water there millions of years ago. I don't give a fuck either. See, that's the thing I'm talking about. It's not like you took half a day off work. Can I leave at halftime? Because I really want to walk around the parking lot and just, kind of clear my head. Because I'm just tripping on that whole could have been water on Mars millions of years ago thing. Fuck. Like water, right? Like, fuck. You're blowing me away with this shit. Millions of years ago. I mean, that's like in the line of all the time in the world. That's like an eye blink. Fuck. Whoa, how much did that cost me? Where are we making the money now? At Kinko's? And what the fuck? And so the other day, I was ripping on Mars. Because my attitude basically, if Mars can't get me laid or fed, fuck Mars. And I know that is a very unenviable truth. But I'm just being honest, and I'm selfish like almost everybody in here who has any kind of idea of self-preservation. So there's Mars, and I'm not saying fuck Mars, like let's blow it up, but there's problems here, right here on Earth, inside of America. Let's take care of this shit first. Worry about Mars. It's not going anywhere. And it's the other day, I was ripping on Mars in St. Louis, and I was talking to people after the show, and this young man comes up to me and goes, Henry, I really wanted to kind of talk to you a second about, you were pretty hard on Mars. I said, what, am I going to go into detention? Did I bum Mars out? Did I give Mars a complex? He went, well, no, but there's some good things about, going to Mars. I said, are you going to tell me what those things are? He goes, well, I'd like to if you give me the chance. I said, I'd love the chance to hear it, but before you tell me, I want you to put your hand on my shoulder, and so I want you to look up in the sky and talk to me about Mars, and I'm going to look up with you. He goes, what do you mean? I go, put your hand on my shoulder, and we'll both look up, and with your hand on my shoulder, you'll tell me about Mars. And there's like 30 people kind of standing like, what are you guys doing? I go, I'm going to hear a thing about Mars. Just give us a second. And I was like, okay. And this guy's like this. I go, yeah. Just. He's like, okay. I go, I'm looking. Just look up. Look straight up. He's like, okay. So he's like, well, Henry, one day the Earth might not have enough natural resources to support human life, and we might have to colonize in other places. And I go, oh, cut this shit! Are you talking about we might have to start building hotels and Starbucks on Mars? And he still had his hand on my shoulder. He's like, well, yes. I go, stop it, we're done with talking about Mars. Like, well, I tried. All right, good night. And he's like, wait. And so the Mars guy is not as happy with me as if I went like, God, I see it. I see what you're seeing. One day. And so this kind of behavior makes me mad because I think there's a lot of things to do here. And the president wants to spend gajillions of dollars going to Mars when I think there's a lot of things that are needed to be fixed down here. And we ignore a lot of the things. And all of you are concerned people. You don't want some old lady freezing solid in the middle of the winter because there's not enough power to go through her apartment building in Michigan. Of course not. You don't want to see all those people that Ronald Reagan cut loose onto the streets back in the 80s. The people you see sitting in the corners of basketball courts and public parks screaming and rubbing their own shit into their hair because they're paranoid schizophrenic and they're fucked up. And Reagan went, oh no, you're just lazy. Now get out there and give it the best you can. And these people sit there like, ah! Ah! And no one takes care of them, and it's fucked up. And you see this kind of thing all the time, and it's no way you'd want a human being to be treated, of course not. And this is the kind of thing that bugs me, that sometimes a guy like the president is always wanting to look good on paper. We're first in space, we're here, we're there, we're everywhere. Yeah, you're everywhere, but at home, fixing that which needs to be fixed. Case in point, the other day, I was in Washington, D.C. It was very, very cold out. It's on the East Coast. It's where I come from, the city I was raised in. And it was about 10 degrees. I finished the show at the wonderful Lisner Auditorium. I walk outside. I'm standing by the tour bus with like 8 people. And we are standing there, huddled together for warmth. I really like the show. Thank you. So you sign this? Your Sharpie's frozen. Hold on a second. Hurry before it freezes again. Oh, are those your Huskies? Yeah. Yeah, I got 16 of them. They draped me everywhere. I mean, it was cold, okay? And so little by little, people are drifting away. And I noticed standing off on the side is a young man who he just wants to talk to me when everyone else is gone. And I've seen it before. So the guy's standing over there, and everyone drifts away. And then this young man starts making his walk towards me. As he's walking towards me, a car starts backing out, next to the bus. It starts backing out into the street. Basically, the car is going to back into this guy on his left side and just run him over. And the car's not going very fast. So I kind of lean out and go like, whoa! And the car stops. The young man looks up, and he's startled. And he kind of freaks out like that, and it upsets the contents of his shoulder bag. And the contents of his shoulder bag spill onto the ground. And a thing I noticed was 2 or 3 large amber pharmaceutical vials. Those large 9-inch long ones. You know when you get stung by the bee and you have a reaction? When you hurt yourself, you have a cold, you get like the 3-day cycle of something, and it's in a little tiny orange vial, and you do the cycle of pills, you throw the thing out. Well, if you endured the My Lai massacre, or if your family was butchered in front of you and you're a little fucked up from that, they give you big-ass antipsychotic drugs. Because some people come back from a conflict and they dig a hole in their backyard and they live inside in the hole because they can't live with their family, and they only go into the house to murder the entire family in their sleep, eat their intestines, then move out to the hole in the backyard. These people usually have huge drug vials because they take these football-sized antipsychotic drugs. So for 18 hours a day, they can be like, instead of like, ah! And so I don't know much about drugs. I've never been on any kind of medication like that. But when you see those big party-size vials hit the ground, you know this guy is fucked up somehow. And so I go, whoa, that's some heavy dosage. And he's leaning to pick him up, but he can't seem to pick up his stuff. And so I go, I'll help you. And I pick up all his stuff, and then I grab him, and I take him out of the way of the car. And like the Boy Scout I am, I said, here's your drugs. I did. I said, here's your drugs. And, he went, okay. And he put them away. And then he starts speaking to me. He starts saying, so I go, you really like this show? He went, yeah. And this is the way the guy speaks. And so it takes like a minute for him to get a sentence out. So I said, so what's the matter? And he says, he tells me that he has spina bifida. And I did not know much about spina bifida then. I know a little bit more about it now from doing a little bit of reading on the internet. And spina bifida, from what I've read, apparently occurs in 1 out of every 1,000 infants. And it's a problem where during gestation, the kid, the spinal cord does not get properly covered. So the child is born with a bit of the spinal cord exposed or sometimes covered by a thin membrane. And sometimes it can be covered with a skin graft, or sometimes the skin grows in, and sometimes not. And you can imagine the problem somebody would have with a bit of their spinal column hanging out of their body. And so there's the obvious breakdown of the central nervous system and difficulties there. Other symptoms of spina bifida include hydrocephalus, which is a buildup of cerebral spinal fluid in the brain, which needs to be shunted off, tendinitis in the hands, sometimes a strong allergic reaction to rubber or plastic products, which would make plastic nipple feeding very difficult. And if you look around right now, if you look around in the diameter around you, you can probably find something plastic. You might be sitting on a plastic-coated chair. You might have something plastic in the cloth on your garment. Okay, we live in a very plastic world, and if you have contact with plastic, rubber, latex, anything like that, and it gives you a severe allergic reaction, your life is very complicated and very tricky. So sometimes people with spina bifida have that. Sometimes they have severe gastrointestinal problems. Basically, the bottom line, people with spina bifida aren't having the peachiest day all the time. And so this guy explains he has spina bifida. He does, in fact, have the allergic reaction to rubber. And then he pulls his jacket up to show me his body. And he says, well, here, check it out. And he pulls his coat up to show me his stomach and chest, which looks like someone just took a knife and just like slashed him. I mean, it's just scar after scar after scar. Like, whoa, what happened? He goes, well, I've had over 150 operations since I was an infant. And so the guy's he's in a lot of pain, and his body's pretty stunted. And then I noticed that the left arm basically is inoperable. It just kind of swings around. It doesn't really do much. And so he said, my problem is that my body's pretty fried. I'm in a lot of pain, and if I don't take these drugs, I can't even function. I'm in so much pain. So when I take the medication, the pain isn't so bad, but I lose control of my motor skills, and I can't speak very well. He says, in fact, I can speak very well. It's just the drugs kind of make my mouth lazy. I can't really form words. It's very difficult. I said, okay, so how do you get by? He says, well, I can't really be employed. And then he asked me for a job. I wish I had a job for him. He goes, I'm not really good to do much because look at me. And he said, I hate living off the government. I don't want to live off the government. I want a job. I want to be out there doing stuff, but I can't really be hired. So I have to live off the government. And my problem is the government doesn't really give me enough money to keep the roof over my head and keep the medication going. So I'm going to have to make a choice between the roof and the medication. So it's either the roof over my head and a lot of pain, or painlessness and I live on the street. So I said, so what are you going to do? He says, I'm going to throw the drugs out and basically keep the roof and be in a lot of pain. So he said, the next time I see you, I'll be in a lot of pain, but I'll be able to talk to you. I said, looking forward to that. And it's a little bit after midnight. He says, okay, well, I'm going to be going. I said, you know, I'm from this town. He goes, yeah, I know. I go, are you? He goes, yeah. I go, where do you live? He goes, out in the suburbs. I said, so how are you getting home? I said, you don't drive, do you? He goes, no, I don't drive. I said, so how are you getting home? The trains have stopped running. Buses have stopped running. He goes, well, I'm just going to walk around for a while for the next 6 or 7 hours and wait for the trains to start running again. Then I'm going to get on a train and go home. I said, why don't you sit inside so you don't freeze solid? He goes, well, I don't really have anywhere to go. I said, why don't you take a cab to Union Station, the train station, and wait inside. I'm sure they'll let you sit somewhere. And he went, no, I don't have enough cab fare money to get to the train station. I'm going to have to walk down there. All I have enough for is the train ticket home. I said, then how about you let me give you some money and we'll get you in a cab. He goes, no, I couldn't take your money. I said, okay, then how about we go to an ATM machine, you put your card in, and we'll get you a couple of 20s. He goes, I don't have an ATM card, I don't have any money. I said, okay, how about you let me loan you some money, and you can send me a money order, or you can give it back to me next time we get together. He goes, no, you've done too much for me. I could never take your money. I said, it's a loan. He goes, no, I could never borrow. I don't want you to think I'm weak, or some kind of macho thing like that. And I'm like, how about you take some money from me because I'm selfish and I don't want to be put on a fucking guilt trip as I go up the 95 north to New York City in my heated bunk. How about that? He went, no, I'll be fine. I said, what? So you're going to walk around the rest of the night hoping not to freeze solid until the sun comes up because you won't take two $20 bills from me? Yeah. And I can't talk you out of this. No. Okay, I'll see you next time. Okay. And he walked away, and that was it. And this guy wanted no pity, no money, no nothing. And in my opinion, Our America is letting this guy down. Okay, I think the guy needs a break. It's not like he's lazy. It's not like he's like, hey man, I don't want to do anything because the system sucks. And he wants to get up off his ass and work, but his body, he's unfortunate. And so I don't want to go to Mars. I want to help Spina Bifida guy. Okay, and tripping on that point just for a second. See if this has ever happened to you, or maybe you were this person at one point. Have you ever been to a city or a town where there's the one hip bohemian block? Like in the middle, like sometimes you go to a mean neighborhood, there's like the one hip block that has the piercing and tattoo place, the cyber cafe, the cool indie record store, and like some retro clothing place. And on either side of that block, it looks like crackhead hell. And you've been to the hip part of town, and you walk down that 1 to 2 block strip where everything is cool. And usually you go by the record store or the piercing place, and there's a young Caucasian male sitting either on his ass or on a skateboard. And you walk by and the hand comes up. Excuse me, sir, could you spare some change? And you say, no. And he goes, okay, well, have a nice day. And you walk by and that's the end of the exchange. I don't get let off that easy. I walk by, oh, excuse me, Mr. Rockstar. Oh, Henry Rollins. Oh, aging alternative icon. Could you take time out of your really intense, demanding schedule to help a poor young man who's down on his luck? I know you're really busy and there's way cooler people for you to hang out with than some skell like me, but please have mercy upon me. What this little motherfucker doesn't know is that I unconditionally like young people. And I don't have a whole lot going on during the day. So I have time to stand and lecture this little motherfucker. He's sitting, I'm standing, so I sermonize stentorian from the mount with indicting index finger. So I asked him a few questions. Young man, yeah? Are you physically challenged in any way? Well, no. I didn't think so, because all that metal that you have hanging out of your mouth, it looks like it takes, some dexterity to put all that stuff in all the time, so you can move all 10 digits, right? Yeah. Are you in any way mentally challenged at all? Have you been hit upside the head with a frying pan so you can't form a sentence like the president? No, actually, people say I'm fairly articulate. You seem to be now. Let me ask you something else, son. And my thespian spit is raining down on him. I said, let me ask you another question. How old are you? I'm 18. 18! 18, let's see, I'm 43 years old, but I can remember 18 barely. I think it was 1853. I was 18 years of age. I would wake up every single morning with my middle finger erect. Angry, horny, and judgmental. I'd wake up every day, for breakfast. I would have 1 yard of dental floss, a 7-Up, and a Snickers bar. And then I would work for an appallingly low amount of money per hour, shoveling something, parking something, lifting or carrying something. In fact, young man, I've been gainfully employed since I was in the 4th grade when I got a paper route. And I've been somehow working my ass off ever since. At the tender age of 18, I remember Joe Strummer told me to question everything, to never sit down, to never shut up, to always be moving forward. Now I see you, of sound mind and body, sitting on your ass, looking up for me to give you alms. Well, yeah. Let me ask you something, as I pull out a huge wad of 20s out of my pocket. Do you see this money, son? Yes, I do. I knew your eyes worked! How much you think is here right now? Well, it looks like a lot of money. It is! It's a few $100. How'd you like to have it? Well, I'm just looking for it. Don't lie! Cut the lies. Too many people lie. Life is too short. Just be who you are, tell the fucking truth, and let's go already. You want the money, don't you, son? Well, no. Tell the truth? Yeah, I do. Well, you can have it. I can? Yeah, you can have it, as I put it back in my pocket, if you can come and take it from me. Well, I don't understand. What do you mean? What I mean is I want you to get up off your ass and mug me, motherfucker! Take my shit! At least I'll respect you. But don't be 18 years old of sound mind and body on a wonderful summer day sitting on your ass looking up at some graying man begging. Oh, okay, well, do you want the money? Not that much. And so I walk away. He gets on his cell phone and calls his friend 10 feet down that way. Henry Rollins is coming. It's not worth it. Just let him keep walking. So, yeah, I got off the topic. The idea of going to Mars to me is just a little bit silly. Actually, I definitely think there's a few things to take care of. And just a few things I wanted to touch on just real fast because it's kind of fun and I took it personally, so I can vent from a personal level, which is the best thing to do. I watched the President's State of the Union address a few weeks ago, and you watched it. I watched it a couple of times, and I watched the greatest hits, and then I downloaded it off the internet from WashingtonPost.com because he said there again, he said stuff where I was watching the screen going, you didn't just say that, did you? You did. I must have been out of my mind. He didn't say that. I better get some proof. And so I downloaded the entire transcript from WashingtonPost.com, and I've read it several times. And I watched that State of the Union just with great concern. A, it's my country. He's the president, and I want to see what he wants to do with the next 4 years of my life and my fellow citizens' lives and our tax money. And so he spoke. I listened. And so I thought was really interesting. One thing he said, and I'm para-quoting. I memorized it, but I'll probably get a word or two wrong, so forgive me. The first time he said, I went, you didn't just say that. And then I downloaded it, and now I know he did. So I trust the Washington Post for an accurate transcription. So he said, ... It is also important to strengthen our communities by unleashing the compassion of America's religious institutions. Quickly, let's just break that sentence down. And I'm not even trying to split hairs. Okay, it's just, a little about me. Call me what you will. Whinging pussy boy might fit the description. But anything upon its release that can be characterized as unleashed, I'm a little scared of. Angry tiger, unleash it! The huge bull cow thing at the rodeo that throws the bony little man off its back and stomps the man into a jelly in 4 seconds, that animal is unleashed. They never unleash free lunch. Unleash the ice cream! It doesn't happen. And so the idea of unleashing the compassion, that's just a little much for me. And so I was trying to think of what would that be like to unleash the compassion. And here's an example that I came up with. When you were, and you might dig this, it's kind of an interesting thing you may never have thought of before. When you were a little person, 3 or 4 years of age, you were taken from your home or wherever you're dwelling at that time, and you're thrown in the family vehicle. And if this never happened to you, then just kind of sit and listen anyway. And if it did happen to you, you'll remember this. You were thrown in the family vehicle, and all of a sudden, after 7 minutes driving somewhere, you start to ask the parental units, when are we going to get there? And they're amazed at how annoying you can be while you ask this question every 15 seconds. Here's why. When you're 50 years old, a 1-hour drive is fractionally a very small part of your life. When you're 4 years old, 1 hour is a huge proportionate chunk of your life. So as a minute goes by, it's like 8 minutes for someone who's grown up. And so every minute that goes by, you're like, I am dying in this car. And an hour in a family vehicle is excruciating. That's why they're putting DVD players in there, knockout drops, cyanide pellets, anything. Cool the kid out. And so you're driving for like an hour, and like, when are we gonna get there? They're like, shut up, will you shut up? Okay, but when are we gonna get there? And so you're taken out of the family vehicle and you walk into a house, and the first thing that you're aware of is, this isn't home. I'm somewhere else. And what's the first thing that you're aware of? It smells different. And why are you so aware of smell? My theory is, because since you don't have a real grip on the language yet, you can't read, you can't drive, you don't have a job, you don't have adult interactions with other human beings, you're more in touch with what you hear, what you see, and what you smell, because you're just a little person getting perception and getting information as you grow. And so you walk and you're like, smells funny, smells different. That's why little kids walk up to people and go, like, you smell funny, because the smell coming off the person really assaults them, because it's vivid, you know? And so that you walk and you're like, smells funny, I'm not home, where am I? Because you don't remember much because you're such a little person. You don't have a whole lot of life experience to draw upon. So you're standing around going, where am I? It smells strange. I'm insecure. I'm weird. I'm weirded out by this. And you're a little bit nervous. And all of a sudden, a woman, 4 feet wide, 4 feet high, with alarming grip strength and unnatural speed, goes across this strange smelling room and grabs you by part of your neck and your collar and slams your little tiny face into this pair of massive, heaving, overly talcumed bosoms. And all of a sudden, and you go like past ear deep into this massive, soft cleavage, and your face pretty much disappears. And you're aware of, first off, sound. Heartbeat, digesting food, the ocean, and a voice that sounds like it's coming from 4 feet, you know, above the swimming pool's coping edge as you're at the bottom at the drain. You hear, I love you, so good to see you, you girl. And you're being rocked back and forth, and you're just kind of slamming back and forth into these bosoms that smell warm of talcum powder and granny flesh. And somehow you're able to breathe through this tiny crack in the cleavage. So you get like kind of warm brassiere air, and it's soft, and it's gentle, and you're so new to the world. Memories of the womb are somehow still back there in the reptilian part of your brain. And now you're back to that time where all was dark and safe, and you had inherent knowledge that the thing you were living in did everything in its power to protect you. When you're inside mommy, you know mommy's doing everything she can to make sure nothing will happen to you, and you're safe. It's like 9 months of free time. You're like, and you're going back into that, and you're just kind of getting your groove on. It's like 40 seconds of this person loves you, and you're being lulled back and forth. You could almost fall asleep on your feet as you be rocked back and forth, and then out of nowhere, you're ripped from the safe haven of Johnson's baby powder and bosom by this short man where his spine curves like a candy cane from his shoulder blades to the back of his skull. And he looks like the hybrid cross between a chimpanzee and an iguana. And there again, unbelievable grip strength as he grabs you. I know what you like! I know what you like! As he puts unbelievably copious amounts of tobacco-flecked, whiskey-tinged spittle that goes like a river down your cheek, down your neck, and is absorbed into your collar. And you're like, ah! And he will not let you go. And his mouth smells like old man soon to come death. And you can smell the booze and the tobacco. And you can't articulate your dismay at this time because you're just a little person. You'll be working that out for $215 an hour in analysis 23 years from now, as you are regressed to that 4-year-old Thanksgiving experience that fucked you up for life as you pound the couch. Oh my God! You put old man spittle all over my face and neck, and now I recoil at the very idea of human touch. I was only 4, you fucked me up for life! This, to me, is unleashing the compassion. Nothing you'd ever want to do to anyone you like. Now, the idea of unleashing the compassion of America's religious institutions, that's huge. And don't get me wrong, I'm not busting on religion. If you're Christian, fine. If you're Catholic, fine. If you're Jewish, great. And I'm not trying to be patronizing, like, oh, you're Christian, whatever gets you through the night, chief. Not even. You are what you are, and there's no problem with that. And unfortunately, there are a few bad apples in all religions that make the whole gang look bad. Like, the poor Catholics have a handful of pedophiles making people think Catholics are weird pedophiles. And it's not true. There's like a handful of these guys, and no one likes a pedophile. I mean, that's one crime where everyone kind of goes, oh, I don't even want to hear about it. Well, he did. No, I don't want to know what he did. It's so utterly horrible. And only if these guys would not hurt little kids, if only they would just deal large amounts of cocaine and guns out of their trunk, you'd have a whole new respect for Catholicism. They'd be signing these guys to multi-record deals. Dr. Dre would he'd try to produce them, okay? They'd be seen either as like rap stars or patriots, because they'd be like Oliver North, drugs and guns, right? But unfortunately, they hurt kids, and no one digs that. And it's a horrible thing to have happen to Catholics, because I gotta think 99.9999% of Catholics are cool, but they're sometimes poorly represented. And I am a fan of the Pope. I dig the Pope because he reminds me of me. I know, you're really working hard there, trying to stretch that, get those two ends to touch. You can't do it. Well, I'll try to help. I dig the Pope because he reminds me of me, because he tours. He gets out there and he gets in front of people, okay? That to me is the first similarity. The second, everyone around the Pope wants him to quit. The Vatican wants to give him a joint and a lap dance and send him on his way. People around me are saying, would you just stop? And the Pope says, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to go on and on. And I say, hell no, I'm on tour, man. And so every once in a while, the Pope gets out there. Every once in a while, the Pope gets out there and he meets the people. And you've seen this. He has a vehicle. His transport vehicle is called the Pope Mobile. No one in the Vatican ever came up with this. No one in Europe would ever annex those two words, Pope and Mobile, which is a horrible thing to do to the English language. It's a horrible thing to do to those two words. It screws both words when you glue them together. And the fact that the word is said with no trace of sarcasm or humor whatsoever. And the Pope is so huge, he's like a rock star. So when he does a spoken word gig, it's at a stadium. And they wheel him out in the Pope Mobile. And they have those kind of like Monday Night Football guys, like, okay, the Pope has come out of the dugout, and he's in the Pope Mobile. So Don, you're gonna break down the Pope Mobile for us. Yes, the schematic on the Pope Mobile, it's his 1998 Pope Mobile. Any performance west of the Mississippi, he uses a 2000 Pope Mobile, which is kept in storage in Northern California. East of the Mississippi, he uses another one that's kept in Delaware. This is the East Coast one he's had for a few years now. You'll notice a new addition to this Pope Mobile. You'll see a custom flame job, airbrush job on both sides. It's here in my notes. The spray paint job was done by a man named, this is incredible, his name is Dirty Dave, and he's down from Daytona Beach, Florida, and he puts custom airbrush paint jobs on motorcycles and drag racers, and he said he was more than happy to put what he calls his hellfire and brimstone flame job on the side of the Pope Mobile, which may give us an inkling as to how the Pope is going to deliver his message to all these 85,000 people who've assembled here today. And so, and here comes the music, and the Pope has his music as he goes out, to the stage, which is a kind of appropriate music for the Pope Mobile. And they can't call it the transport vehicle. They have to call it the Pope Mobile and show different versions of the Pope Mobile. Oh, well, he got new tires on this one. Those are custom. They come, forget it. And so they finally put the guy on stage, and backstage they made him a hat. The hat is wild. The hat is like 4 milk cartons and a bunch of paper mache. They let third graders do it. Make the Pope a hat. And these kids come up with this weird thing, and they go like, okay, you have to put it on, and he doesn't even know where he's like, okay, yeah, go ahead. Dunk. And they put it on, they give him his scepter, and they put him down in his throne, and the poor guy is like your 117-year-old uncle. He just falls asleep all the time, like at dinner, face into the chowder, wham! And so the Pope is in front of like 85,000 people asleep. He can't help it. It's not that he's lazy, the guy's just tired. He's like, and some cardinal pontiff types comes over, wake up. Come on, give him the big show. They paid, they paid $150 a seat. Merch is going crazy. T-shirts are flying out of here. Go, man, go.
I want all you people to be good. You're all going to heaven. Yeah, you're all going to heaven, except for you faggots.
So there's a few aspects of Catholicism. I think they have to kind of file off some of the rough edges there. Christianity, Christians I have no real problem with. It is interesting to me, the other day, Mel Gibson released his big Christ movie, The Passion of the Christ. And before he released it, all the news pundits were going, Mel Gibson has lost his mind. Mel Gibson is finished in Hollywood. Mel Gibson is taking the slow boat home to Australia because he's never going to work here again. What was he thinking? 25 million of his own dollars to this movie about Christ. It has violence and blood in it. No one's going to go. $350 million later, and like millions are hitting this guy's bank account by the hour. All of a sudden, every studio in Hollywood is having emergency meetings. Do we have a Christ movie? Well, no, we don't. Then get one or it's your ass. Okay, get 5. And so think about this. You know, all of you have access to a DVD player. Some of you have DVDs. And all of your favorite movies now come out on DVD, or movies you don't like. And you wonder, God, what a shitty movie. Why are they going to make that into a DVD? Not only do they make the shitty movie you hated on the airplane into a DVD, but they put in an extra DVD of all like the outtakes and all this other stuff. Like, I'm supposed to fucking care? Like, wow, the 3 DVD set of some Jim Carrey movie, a guy who has like nothing comedic for me. I'm sure he's a very nice guy, but his movies are like fucking watching molasses come out of a fucking spigot. They're just boring as hell. Like the 9 DVD set with all the outtakes. Wow! And so they market this stuff to you, alternate ending and all this stuff. And so this Christmas, Christmas time, they're going to release the DVD version of The Passion of the Christ. How the hell are they going to market that movie? Many of you have seen this movie. It's a bloody, violent ordeal. You sat through it as you watch Christ like, you're nailing my fucking head to a cruiser! In Aramaic. What in the world is going to compel you to want to watch the movie again? I'm not putting it down, but recently they did the 2 DVD deluxe set of Schindler's List. Everyone saw it once. Powerful movie? Absolutely. Worth seeing? I think so. See it twice? Not on your life. And how are they going to market that? Relive the gassing of Jews. I bet you kind of miss being back at Auschwitz. Yeah, right. I mean, come on. Can you see a bunch of frat guys packed into a dorm room at night? List. Fucking A! Yeah! It's never gonna happen. Like a bunch of sorority girls, ganged into a room on a Friday night. What do you want to do? Passion. It's not gonna work. So what are they gonna do to sell The Passion of the Christ? They're gonna have to add the second DVD. What the hell are they gonna put on it? I've already written Mel Gibson, a man who I don't know, with a couple of suggestions. So you gotta make the DVD sexy now. You have to bring people in. You have to bring in a younger audience. You have to cross over and sell one to everyone. How are you gonna do it? Hot chicks in the age of Christ. These women, they're scantily clad anyway. Just get some hot college chicks. Whoops, my breast fell out of my shaw. Hot? What about this? What about alternate endings? What about... We're gonna nail you up, Jesus. Oh, yeah? onto the motorcycle. Damn it! He got away! You bastard! He dragged Judas for 1.5 miles. His head came off. It was unbelievable. It could work. Or you could have the interactive video game you could have an Xbox game on the second DVD where you're Christ. And you could like choose different ways to drag your cross up the Via Dolorosa. Years ago, I was in Israel, and I took a walk up the Via Dolorosa with a tour guide named Michael. And we got to, I don't know, the third or fourth station of the cross where Christ had to bust a right to keep on going up the way. And he's dragging the crucifix. A few people, helped him, I guess. But, by and large, he's carrying all this lumber up the road. And I'm not trying to put the guy down. Quite the opposite. I think the guy's really cool. But anyway, he gets around like in the third or fourth station of the cross. He has to bust this right. And I asked the tour guide, I said, Michael, how did Christ get the crucifix around the corner? He goes, what do you mean? I go, well, if any of the paintings are to scale, it's a big cross, it's a heavy cross. We're not even going to talk about how a guy with so little meat on his bones was able to carry this thing. I mean, he's Christ, he's cool like that. But physically, how can you get the cross around the corner? He goes, I don't understand what you're talking about. I go, well, break it down. If you stood it up, you could kind of move it around the corner, but you would take that window out there, and if you laid it down and tried to 3-point turn it around the corner, you could put part of the cross inside that doorway, but then you wouldn't be able to, it would bark up into that retaining wall over there. He's like, are we having this conversation? I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to nail it down like, ha-ha, I just want to know how he did it. And he's like, he just did it, okay? I went, no, seriously, he just fucking did it. We're walking. And since Mel made so much money on The Passion of the Christ, like I said before, I'm honest, I'm greedy, I want some money too. I'm gonna make a Christ movie. I should. And it won't be violent. There won't be any crucifixion or blood or agony. It'll be when Christ comes back. And he's going to do a tour of America. We're going to put him in a tour bus. And he's going to come back and it's going to be called Oh Hypocrite. And he's going to go up to so many people who say, I believe in Christ. He's like, you believe in Christ, but you're a homophobe. And he's going to call motherfuckers out. And he's going to walk through all kinds of insane neighborhoods, and all they're going to see is this guy bleeding from the hands, like, Jesus, it's Jesus, you know what I'm saying? And so we need a sexy Christ. I need big bang for the buck. So I've decided I'm going to try to employ Viggo Mortensen as Jesus. Did you hear that? Did you hear the women screeching? That's the demographic I'm trying to hit. Because women bring the men. Men park the car. My ticket vendors for the parking space get paid. The women get hungry. They buy the malted milk balls from the guy inside the theater. They bring them in and they want to see it over and over again because Viggo is so hot. Now, Viggo is coming off a huge ride with the Lord of the Rings thing, and then all of a sudden you see Viggo's handsome, charismatic face, the chiseled visage, is on the side of park benches and buses. He's everywhere. He's now on the cover of the Lord of the Rings book. He is the man. I think he's going to make a really good Christ. I'm going to abduct Viggo. I'm gonna throw him in a cage. I'm gonna feed him limited rations for 3 weeks so he loses 20 or 30 pounds. I'm not saying the guy's fat. I'm gonna make him Christ-like, just kind of almost starving, because women like guys who look like that. When you look like one of those little bitches from The Strokes, chicks dig it. What are you gonna do? They do. So we'll starve out Viggo so he's just like a mere slip of a man. We'll throw him in the tanning salon for a few nights so he's all tanned and leathery, like he's been hanging out in the desert waiting for for a message. We'll throw a little peroxide into his hair, a little lemon juice, lighten him up a little. We won't let him shave for a few days so he's got a little beard stubble going. And then we'll get the smallest amount permissible of filthy cloth and barely cover his naughty bits. And we'll have that little bit of cloth ride dangerously close to the pubic hairline. And he'll come back, this kind of hot, sexy, scrawny Christ. And Viggo, as you know, the boy can act his ass off. Viggo is a tremendous artist. I'm a huge fan of his. And so Viggo, Christ, will be unleashed onto the streets of America. Now, in post, I'm going to overdub all of Viggo's vocal with Bootsy Collins from P-Funk. all of you know how Bootsy talks, so think about it. Look at a sexy, emaciated Viggo Mortensen walking down the road, bleeding from both hands and feet, but it talks like Bootsy. People walk up, whoa, dude, are you Jesus? Yeah, baby. And I'm back to cool you out. Did the crucifixion hurt? It looked like it hurt like fuck. Yeah, baby, it did. It hurt like fuck. Yeah. But you know, I just keep on funking anyway. Yeah, baby. And so that's what I want to do. I have a lot of phone calls I have to make, obviously. But I'm sorry, I got off the topic. America's religious institutions. The compassion, yes. And so, when the president says he wants to unleash the compassion of America's religious institutions, what that translates into is he wants to give hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayer money to Christian organizations to do what they need to do to make you better. And I say, if you want to contribute to any kind of religious institution or any kind of organization, Psychos for Bush or MoveOn.pac or whatever you want to contribute to, the Audubon Society, I say run and do not walk. They all could probably use $1 or 20, but so if you want to donate to Jerry Falwell, okay, do it. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but don't do it with American tax dollars. That's my beef. That's not fair. That's so not American to take American tax dollars and give it to a Christian organization because the president's a Christian and he wants you to somehow feel the compassion. Like, motherfucker, remember what country you come from. We keep the church over here, the state over here. I mean, 2 different entrances. They're both cool as long as we know there's 2 different parking lots and 2 different buildings. And so that kind of pisses me off. And another thing that pissed me off, and I took it really personally, was the fact that the president said that the only sure way to protect young people against the threat of AIDS and other STDs and teen pregnancy is to preach the virtues of abstinence-only sex education. Now, I don't know how many virgins we have in this building. Not many, but it's not important. Basically, when he was elected, he said he promised to give $100 million a year to Christian organizations to preach the gospel of abstinence-only sex ed. Now, he wants to ramp it up to $270 million a year, over $250 million a year, to teach Johnny and Mary to not ask. That teaches Johnny basically to tie it in a knot and just not think about it. Now, a lot of people would call this ignorant. Now, when we've found, like the president, one of the agencies of the government, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, have shown us that there's a 30% drop in teen pregnancy and spread of STDs because young people are learning how their bodies work. They show that contraception knowledge of how the parts work, a young person can make an informed decision on what to do with his or her body. And you remember those times when you were just growing up, you're insatiably curious about how the parts work, what it's going to feel like, how it's going to be. And if you don't teach young people, if you don't give them any kind of ammunition, they're gonna go do something. And they might make the wrong choice. They might make a really horrible decision that might have really horrible, lethal consequences. And so the idea that in America you have the president basically preaching ignorance and fear, this to me is so the wrong idea. Now, I think there's a basic problem. I think the old forget what it's like to be young. Okay? At 43, I barely remember puberty, but I remember it enough. And I don't know how you women operate. I'm curious. You're a wonderful experiment to me. I'm not saying you're work in progress. I'm just saying I dig you. I just don't know how you operate. I'm so curious. And it's my curiosity that keeps me going. But it seems to me that girl to woman, puberty for females seems to be like just kind of a walk through the park. You take off one jacket and you put on another, and you walk into a room and everyone goes like, whoa, a woman has walked in, but you were a girl at noon, and now you're 3 and you're a woman. How'd you do that? Well, You're like, damn. Because all you guys know, and I say this to get sympathy, just so you women can try and understand what us guys go through. Puberty for males is about as subtle as a 2x4 across the bridge of the nose. It is catastrophic. It is a plague on the senses. It is so not cool. It's like getting mugged in an alley. And I remember many years ago in the 1840s when I was young, I went to an all-boys school. in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. And it was an all-boys school. We wore these little uniforms, and they basically got young men ready to go to the Naval Academy or West Point or any other place. And so there was a lot of sit down and shut up, and our teachers were ex-World War II, Korea, Vietnam, a lot of sergeants, colonels, majors, people from Paris Island, and very intense people like that. And so there's a lot of, they called you names. You were called by your last name. It was very depersonalized. And I remember every September, I'd go to the school bus stop, and I'd wait for the bus. Now, my bus stop was near a street called Massachusetts Avenue. And Massachusetts Avenue in Washington, D.C. goes uphill, and it crests at the National Cathedral. And at the National Cathedral, there's a Catholic girls' school. And so every day, the Catholic girls would make that little migratory trip to class. And they'd walk by in the classic Catholic girls' school getup. The skirt, leg, sock, and shoe ensemble. And they'd walk by. So September is 6th grade. They walk by, you don't care. You're too busy telling your friends how you squashed a bug with a popsicle stick the day before. 6th grader shit. Then September of 7th grade, the girls walk by, you don't care. September of 8th grade, they walk by, you look at them for 4 seconds, but you don't know why. You kind of track them for a second. Then you go back to the bug and the stick. And then September of 9th grade, the girls walk by as they go uphill up Massachusetts Avenue. All of our conversation abruptly ceases as we track the girls. And we had to grab onto car door handles, hug light poles, for fear of our lower halves running away with the rest of us. We did not quite understand what the pull was. We did realize there was something in the region of the skirt that held great interest. Our destiny, our purpose here on the planet was located inside the skirt. What the hell is in there? We have a general idea, but no one has shown us the parts. So we just kind of go, and finally, the school bus comes. And you know how it is. You go on a school bus, you naturally gravitate to your peer group, your age group. So I find my peer group in the back of the bus. No one is talking. All of us are gnawing on that naugahyde cushion that goes over the top of the seat so you don't take a header and dash your little brains. And everyone's like, and every once in a while a new kid comes onto the bus and you just look up and go, he goes like, skirt, Homeroom was nothing but a low moan as we all chewed history books and our desks. And of course our teacher was like, what's the matter with you fucking pussies? He's like, oh God, they've seen it before. And so the first half of the day was just unbelievable boredom. Nebuchadnezzar, the Hanging Gardens, blah, 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 blah. We're like, what about the Hanging Gardens of Skirt? Oh! All right, you little bastards, go eat lunch. Is there any raw meat they can throw us? No. Okay, I'll just sit in the library and gnaw on my forearm. And you go home from school that evening. Henry, do your homework. No. Henry, eat your dinner. No. Henry, sleep. No. No. Henry, get off the roof of the fucking apartment building and stop banging at the moon. Like, oh, skirt, oh. You wake up the next day with your dick glued to your leg, but you don't know why? You don't know what this substance is that glues your dick to your leg? The dream was good. It was 2 seconds, and then there was a blackout. And so you go back to the bus stop, oh, and no one told us anything. And at the same time, we're all buying rock records. I actually bought Led Zeppelin records while Led Zeppelin was still making records. And I would listen to stuff like Zeppelin 4. It's a great rock and roll album. It's untouchable. But when you are pre-puberty and you listen to rock and roll, you don't really quite understand what they're saying, why they're saying it the way they're saying it, and why they're playing that way. What the hell is Robert Plant's problem? What the hell? Is there a woman being cooked over a spit? What's going on with this guy? Jimi Hendrix wants people to stand next to this woman's fire. My God, man, you could get burned alive. So I had all those records, but I did not quite understand why they were doing what they were doing. All I know is I kind of enjoyed them when they were played really loud. And the louder I played them, the more I would anger my mother, who was down the hall in her little room, listening to Brahms or Beethoven on National Public Radio. God damn it, turn it down! And I had that really bad General Electric record player that would unfold and the speakers come out like wings. if you turn it past high noon, the whole thing just distorts. So like, I would just put my face into the speakers and just kind of go like, this is great, but I don't know why. And then that fateful September came, and the skirt became evident. And then I played all those records again, and all of a sudden a little bit of the Vaseline had been taken off the lens, and there's a kind of an undistinguished outline of something. Why, it's a skirt. And that was the theme that ran through all those records. Every song is about a skirt. And she's buying the stairway to skirt. That's all that song's about. I don't think so. Look at the lyrics. I don't need to look at the lyrics. It's Led Zeppelin. It's all about a skirt. Well, Jimi Hendrix has Purple Haze. It's a Purple Haze skirt is what he's talking about. It's all about the skirt. Tell me about the skirt. No. You guys shouldn't learn about anything except history and science and math and sports. But what about the fucking skirt? Shut up, okay? And so no one told us about the skirt. And then the high school dances started. And your gymnasium turned into this Darwinian wooden floor of humiliation and inadequacy as you stood against the wall. As they brought girls into our school, they would have to abduct them to bring them in, because no chick wanted to go to our school for a dance because they knew that we were such losers. And so we're there against the wall. I'm trembling from Ritalin, and we're all looking at these girls, and we're like, and then a few years later, we graduated, like, boom, and we're just like kicked out into the world, not really knowing all the stuff we should have known. And from all that inadequacy and all that curiosity and all that humiliation and difficulty that one goes through growing up, I think you should know how the parts work, especially now when there's a lot at stake. There's a lot of horrible things that can happen to you if you don't have your fun wisely. And why you'd want to have young boys and girls not be able to make good choices. What, do you hate kids, or do you just not understand them? I know your daughters are alcoholics, Mr. President, and I know you don't have a grip on them, but don't take it out on the rest of the nation's youth. So the president and I, we have a little beef on that one. And the president and I, we have a really huge, major beef on something else he said. And I'll get off this political thing in just a second, but I just wanted to tear this off just for a second.